For so long, when we've talked about menopause, it's all been about the physical stuff, right? Hot flashes, night sweats, you know the drill. But what if that's not even half the story? We're now learning that menopause is actually one of the most profound neurobiological events in a person's life. It's not just your body changing, it's your brain's entire operating system getting a massive, and I mean massive, update. I mean, just listen to this. Does that sound familiar at all? That feeling of knowing something is off, something is deeper, but being told it's just stress or you're just getting older. Well, that voice inside you is absolutely right. This is something deeper. And the good news is, the science is finally catching up to that reality. So that begs the big question, doesn't it? If this isn't just about getting older, what is really going on inside the brain? To figure that out, we've got to look past the surface and dive right into the brain's internal wiring during this incredible transition. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to move beyond the physical. Then we'll get into your brain's relationship with estrogen. It's a real page-turner. After that, we'll look at the chemical chain reaction it all sets off, what that means for risk, and most importantly, how we can find our way to well-being through all of it.
Okay, first things first, we need a major reframe. You know, the brain fog, the anxiety, the mood swings. For years, they've been treated like annoying side effects of hot flashes or not sleeping well. But the science is crystal clear. These aren't side effects. They are a direct result of changes in the brain. In many ways, they are the main event.
And here's the real kicker. For so many people, these changes in the brain, the mood shifts, the fuzzy thinking, they can show up before the first hot flash ever hits. Now, what does that tell you? It's our biggest clue that this is a primary neurological event, not just some reaction to being physically uncomfortable. The brain is leading the charge. So, if the brain is the one in the driver's seat, what's pressing the gas? Well, the answer leads us straight to a hormone that, it turns out, does a whole lot more than we ever gave it credit for.
Yeah, we're talking about estrogen, but we've got to stop thinking about it as just a reproductive hormone. It's a powerhouse for the brain. It's a neuromodulator, which is just a sciencey way of saying it's like the master sound engineer for your brain, fine-tuning everything from your mood to your memory and even protecting your brain cells. It's a big, big deal.
And this brings us to the main theory of what's going on. It's called the estrogen withdrawal hypothesis. And it's pretty straightforward, really. The idea is that your brain gets used to a certain level of estrogen to keep things running smoothly. When that estrogen suddenly drops off, the circuits that depended on it, well, they get a little wobbly, a little unstable. And that destabilization is the root cause of so much of what people experience. And this table shows us exactly why that happens. See, estrogen doesn't just slosh around in there. It has to plug into specific docking stations or receptors to do its job. And look where these docking stations are. We're talking about the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex, literally the command centers for your memory and your emotional regulation. So when there's less estrogen to plug in, these critical hubs are the first to feel it. So let's use an analogy. If estrogen is the conductor of your brain's orchestra, what happens when the conductor suddenly walks off stage in the middle of a symphony? Well, you get chaos. The whole system gets out of sync, and it triggers this massive chemical cascade. It's basically a neurochemical triple whammy. First, serotonin, your feel-good, mood-stabilizing chemical, takes a nosedive. Second, dopamine, the one that gives you motivation and a sense of reward, its signal gets way weaker. And third, GABA, which is basically the brain's chill-out button, it becomes way less effective. You couldn't write a better recipe for anxiety, low mood, and just feeling blah. And we have to be clear, this isn't just about having a few bad days. This massive chemical shift creates a genuine biological period of increased risk, what researchers call a window of vulnerability for some pretty significant mental health challenges. And if you want to put a number on that vulnerability, well, here it is. One landmark study found that in late perimenopause, the odds of developing major clinical depression are more than 4 times higher. Let me say that again, over 4 times higher. This isn't just feeling sad. This is a quantifiable biological risk for a serious mood disorder. But, and this is so important, that risk isn't the same for everybody. It gets amplified by a whole cocktail of factors that are unique to you. Your personal history, your stress levels, your sleep, even how you enter menopause matters. It really drives home this idea that it's not just your biology, it's the intersection of your biology and your biography. This chart paints that picture perfectly. Yeah, the hormonal shifts are the biggest piece of the pie, no doubt, about 40%. But look at everything else in the mix. Life stress,
physical symptoms, your own personal history, they all play a huge part. Nothing is happening in a vacuum. It is all connected.
Okay, I know this can all sound a little daunting, but listen, the whole point of understanding the science isn't to be scary. It's the exact opposite. It's about empowerment. Because once you know what's actually happening, you can start to take control and navigate this thing with real agency. So, what do we do about it? Well, the evidence really points to a two-pronged attack. On one side, you have biological tools like hormone replacement therapy, which can tackle the problem at its hormonal root. And on the other, you have incredible psychological and lifestyle tools, like cognitive behavioral therapy to rewire your thoughts, and exercise to literally change your brain chemistry for the better. And let's just talk about exercise for a second, because it's not just a distraction, it is a direct neurochemical intervention. When you exercise, you get this measurable mood boost because you're increasing things like endorphins and a compound called BDNF. Think of BDNF as like miracle grow for your brain cells. It helps them grow, become more resilient, and build new connections, directly fighting back against some of those chemical deficits. So I want to leave you with this final thought. Once we accept that menopause is this huge, important rewiring of the brain, it completely changes the game. It stops being this thing we just have to suffer through and grit our teeth. Instead, what if we saw it as a call to action, a critical opportunity to get serious about our brain health and invest in it for the long haul, in a way we never have before?